Networking and marketing made simple is for you, the business owner who has a product, a service, or a message that you believe in. My name is Scott Aaron, and each week we'll take a behind-the-scenes look into the real-world marketing and networking tactics and strategies for getting what you have in front of you to a lot more people. Thanks for spending time with me, and now let's get started. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Networking and Marketing Made Simple. Super stoked about today's interview episode. I have my good friend, Katie Keach, on here today, and I'm really excited for her to share her story because as you have all been following this podcast for the last 2+ years, I really pride myself on having a very diverse base of people that I interview. It's not a straight line in entrepreneurship. It takes different shapes and sizes and different businesses all together of how people make it work. And Katie and I are doing some work together, and she's doing some interesting things and blazing her own trail and carving her own path. And that is why I felt it absolutely necessary to bring her on here, because she has a valuable story to share that people need to hear. And that is why she's here today. So Katie, welcome to today's episode.
Thank you, Scott. Always a pleasure to be on.
Absolutely. So for my audience that is not familiar with you and what you do, please take the time now to kind of introduce yourself. But most importantly, before you finish that story, always my audience loves to know this and enlighten them. What was that spark for you that has led you down this entrepreneurial path where you're constantly looking to grow and prosper and achieve and grow, prosper and achieve, that has literally landed you on the path that you're on today?
Yeah, absolutely. So hello, listeners. And viewers. I am Katie Keach. I am the CEO of Full Advantage. We believe in connecting people, process, and profit. We focus mainly on billing, payment processing, credit, and collections. And we have a number of different options, whether it be we do it for you. We handle everything from start to finish, in-house, hire, fire, promote within, or we have a bunch of video segments that are available as well. So we really have the best options for everybody, which is really important. My focus, honestly, has been, I worked in the corporate world for 14+ years. And I started at the bottom. And really what I learned there was no right path to creating how to handle your credit and collections. You had to just design it based on your appetite for risk. And so what we ended up doing is trial and error, right? And figuring out how to take a small, under $5 million in revenue franchise. And we grew it to today, it's over 1.6 billion in size. I was one of the first employees, and still an equity shareholder there today, and very proud of that company. So refer business to them. But one of the things that was really important as we were growing was figuring out, what are the things that become hurdles for us as a business. And one of the big ones was, all business wasn't good business, getting that through our heads, right? And then being open and ready to look at how can we onboard business without having to sacrifice that growth, but being able to do it, very strategically. So whether it was, prepayment, could possibly be looking at security deposits, whether it was backup on payment methods. So those were really the focus of how do you onboard that business without taking so much risk that it could crumble you down the road, but then continue to scale. And so I found that the fire got lit underneath me probably in around 2018 into 19. I was traveling the country, going into our sales offices, looking eye to eye with our sales team, doing these round tables and saying, buy into me, buy into my team, and let me kind of get you on the golf course on a Friday, wanted to see you do well. And I said, man, if I could do this as a business, how amazing that could be. And so I was there until early 2019. And then I had that aha moment that was like, okay, let's go do this for everybody, because everybody could use this.
The jumping off point when you're taking that dive off the cliff without a parachute, so to speak.
I love it.
is it's a very vulnerable and scary place to be. And, my wife and I have been there many times, and, you just have to kind of trust yourself that you're going to figure it out on the way down. You and I both know that there's a lot of people out there that have a lot of great ideas. They have gifts to share with the world, but they're still unwilling to take that risk that you took, that I took, that Nancy took, that has kind of led us on this path to not just self-discovery, but really this abundance and wealth of freedom and time and impact. Why do you feel, and it's so out there's so many people that speak about taking that leap and taking the risk to reap the reward in 2021? Why do you still feel, after all the information that's out there, all the proof that is out there, that people that really do take that leap, you can make it work? Why do you feel people still sort of have that reluctance to want to take that leap, to really go after what they want?
It's so funny you asked that question because I ran into a couple scenarios this weekend where I feel that this was a very relevant mindset. So because it's the unknown, it's the fear of the unknown. That is the answer to the question. And well, there's no reverse button. There's no undo button, I like to say, because once you take the leap, they think that there's no recourse. And to me, that's so untrue, especially if you look at COVID, right? Nobody knew what was going to happen with COVID. And the fear for many people was at first getting sick. And obviously, so sorry for the lives lost there. But secondly, was I could lose my job. I could, something could happen outside of my health and my family that financially could impact me. And I know you and I have had conversations. We didn't have that fear, could we lose revenue? Sure. That was obviously an opportunity. Everybody goes into saving mode and didn't want to spend. But I found that all my clients actually doubled down, believe it or not. And so many were just like, I'm going all in. I need to care about this area because I don't know what the other side of this looks like. So I think it's the recourse and the undo button being a missing factor that makes people so terrified.
And I think, the other thing that you can add on to that is people, what they don't truly understand is that your failures open the doors to your successes.
100%.
And that's why there's no undo button, because the way the universe wants this whole thing to play out is that the universe wants us to kind of fail forward. The universe wants us to say, listen, what was the lesson that you learned from this mistake, and how can you improve upon it to make it better and better and better? And I just really feel that I've learned so much, not just from this pandemic, but I've learned a lot about myself, and I've always been a resilient person. And, I was scared shitless when the pandemic hit. I remember clearly almost a year ago, it was April 2020. We had just come out of a 2-week, country lockdown. And I didn't know what was going to happen with my business, because if my clients weren't able to make money, they weren't able to invest money. And that's the way that I worked. And I remember I had a call with my financial team. I got on the phone with my financial advisor. I got on the phone with my accountant, and we just kind of brainstormed. And I had that lapse, and, no one's perfect. And I reverted. And I got scared. I'm like, oh my God. Like, so that lack mindset, when you're facing, because it's an unknown, like what's the country, like what's everything going to look like 30 days from now, 60 days from now, 90 days from now. So I allowed myself to feel how I was feeling for a couple hours, not even a day,
Yeah.
a couple hours. And I said, all right, now let's get to work, because I had to figure other ways to outproduce my problems, so it would alleviate any existing problem that may have been there. And it ended up being a phenomenal year. It led into our best quarter of our company's history in 2021. And I attribute that to something like you said. It's don't press that undo button, because it's not there. And the lessons that you learn from failing forward will truly set you up for so much success. So fast forward from, 2018, 2019 to where you are now. Now that you're official, I mean, you're still doing some contract work here and there, but you're on your own. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned in this transitional past 18 months of really going out on your own?
I think the biggest lesson would be, don't be afraid to knock on the door. I used to really want to try to find exactly the perfect, I call it the gift box with the bow on the top, right? Like the perfect scenario. And now it's just like it's not that situation. I just don't even worry about what it is that I want to talk about. I talk to as many people as possible. I network as much as possible. I've gotten to know so many people from getting out of that comfort zone for me. And I like to live every single day uncomfortably. That is my new thing. Like, live uncomfortable, and you will be amazed at the opportunities that it presents itself.
I couldn't agree more, because everything happens in the uncomfortable zone. Everyone it's so funny because everyone talks about wanting to live the best life possible. They talk about living this epic life of time freedom and monetary freedom, but yet the things that you need to do to make that life happen, it's too uncomfortable. It's too much of a push. It doesn't feel good. It feels icky and weird. Well, the uncomfort zone, that's where all the growth happens.
100%.
I love the example. I don't know if it was Tony Robbins or someone else gave this example. How many times do you give your children, how many attempts do you give your kids to learn how to walk before you tell them to quit? And the answer is
Never.
Infinite.
Right.
There is, I mean, you fall down, you get back up, you fall down, you get back up. And no matter how uncomfortable it is, and think about the bumps and bruises. And I know you and I can both relate to that, being parents. Think about how many bumps and bruises our kids develop along the years. I mean, my son, God bless him, he's 8.5. He'll be 9 in September. He's already broken his arm. He's gotten stitches 4 times, but nothing stops him. And again, think about that. When you take your bumps and bruises as an adult, you're only going to get better and better. Everyone thinks that, when you get to a certain age, you can't learn anything more. Like, well, I've learned all there is to learn. No, we're constantly learning and educating ourselves. We're all kids at heart. We're still wanting to, you're never too old to learn something new. And if you're listening to this and you're like, well, that's not true, you're lying to yourself. There are so many success stories of people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s learning something new, and their life was completely changed 12 months later. So what would you say has been the biggest asset of your mindset, where, I don't want to say the normal person, someone that does have that fear of there not being an undo button? What do you think, with your mindset, the years and years and years that you spent dealing with people and leading teams and everything you've done, what do you think asset wise was the greatest thing within your mindset that has helped you achieve all the things that you have since going out on your own?
Perseverance. I think that's got to be the answer, because I continue to persevere no matter how many times that, you get the no. It's always going on to you want the no. First of all, I strive to get the no versus the maybe, or to keep following up. And then I would say just being resilient and continuing to be perseverant, because I would say 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, my biggest fear was losing my job, right? And so now I don't have that fear. It's just a different situation. So I would say that the perseverance would definitely be it. And I'll also say equally my husband, my partner, because I know you feel the same way about Nancy. Having that sounding board, and I tell my clients, I tell anybody this: my husband's my biggest fan, my biggest champion, my biggest supporter. On any given day, he believes in me more than I believe in myself. And I fully believe if you're not surrounding yourself with someone like that, or somebody that's, not encouraging you, then you don't have the right, partner for this. Maybe they support you in other ways, but not for this. And you got to have, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you got to have that right partner.
Yeah, we're not promoting divorce here by any
No,
means.
no, by any means, no. Please don't anybody get divorced.
But what we are saying is have that conversation, because the 9 to 5 mentality compared to the business owner entrepreneur mentality, it's two different animals. It's like comparing apples to bowling balls. So, your spouse doesn't have to be 100% knowing what you do. They just have to be supportive of how you do it and why you do it. And that's it. They don't need to have their hands in the pot. All they need to know, and they need to understand exactly why you're doing what you're doing. But you said something really interesting prior to that, is that you always go for no. And this brings me back to one of my favorite books called Go for No by Andrea Waltz and Richard Fenton. And Andrea has since become a friend of mine. She was on my podcast in my first season. We talk once every couple quarters just to kind of catch up. Amazing human being. And, obviously I just haven't talked to Richard, but this book changed my life, because right on the cover, it says, yes is the destination, but no is how you're going to get there. And I think this is the other misconception in entrepreneurship. You're going to hear no infinitely more times than you will yes, but everyone focuses on the yes. So when you start focusing on something that you're not going to hear as often as something else, then you start feeling upset and you feel like a failure. But if you start looking for no's, the yeses start to show up because they're waiting right behind all the no's that you're going to get. How much of a benefit has it been for you to have that mentality of understanding that you need to get those no's in order to get the yeses?
It's been a game changer. 100. I mean, it's so important to be able to keep being positive and having that. I mean, if you follow me on Instagram or any kind of social media platform, I do a daily motivational post. That motivational post, I've been told by so many people, is so meaningful to them. And now I feel like a sense of, purpose that I have to do it, because I'll let down people if I don't. But it's really for me. I mean, selfishly, I will share. I do that for me, to get me in the right, to get myself in the right mindset, and to keep persevering. And so no matter whether it's personal, professional, or what I've got going on, I've had to tell myself that this is what I need to do. And it's been game changer. That's the answer.
I'm the same way, because I do a motivational quote or post in the morning, my own, and then I do a nightly affirmation before bed. So I always start the day with something positive, and I end the day with a little positive affirmation. And yes, with great power comes great responsibility. So once you start doing that, you can't stop, because there are people that need to see that every night. It's the truth. They wait for it, they look for it, they want it. But what people don't understand is that everything that you and I put out there, whether it's our morning mantras or my evening affirmation, it comes right from us. They're not pre-scheduled. Everything that we do is in real time. And it is, I every time I hit that post button, I'm always sitting in with how I feel. So my post, it's all in the moment, because I channel how people are feeling out there, how I'm feeling out there. What do people need to hear? What do I need to hear right now? What can I write that's going to anchor me with what I want to achieve today? And in business, especially in entrepreneurship, you have to put you first, because if you don't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of those that you're looking to impact and help? And that's, we're all givers, but you have to give to yourself so you actually have something to give to those around you. What's your big message to that entrepreneur that is still kind of sitting on that fence of taking that leap that you and I have taken, and they're still unsure, they're scared because they're not sure how steep the fall is, or what is at the bottom of that fall? What's your message to that person that's still thinking about it?
You have to believe in yourself. That's, if you don't believe in yourself, then nobody's going to believe in you, and your clients aren't going to believe in you. You have to buy in on yourself, and you gotta convince yourself that it's worth taking the risk on you. And if you can't get there, then that's probably why you're still sitting there questioning it. I would also say that you need to make sure you let yourself. There's not an undo button per se, but you can always go get another job. I fully believe that. If a worst case comes to fruition, I can go waitress tables. I can go. I'll do whatever. I'll be the janitor if that's what it takes, because I'll make sure that I provide for my family and for myself. So I think that that's the undo button for anybody who's really afraid. You just go get another job or get a few more jobs or whatever it is. But I think what you need to be afraid of is, what if I don't? I will never know what I was capable of. And that's really what came to me this weekend, and even this morning when I was talking to a couple different people was, there's not enough fear on the other side, which is, what if I don't? What happens if I don't take this? I never realized my potential. And what if what I have to offer the world is a game changer and can help somebody, and I don't even realize how much it can impact them? I've learned by talking to so many different clients and talking to so many different people that what I have to tell the world and what I have to share is not, the everyday conversation. How I want to share it is not the norm, and that I have so much more to offer than I even realized taking the leap.
If you had to summarize in 3 specific bullet points, what makes you and your company different than others out there, what would you say those 3 things are?
So I would say we can scale with you. So we can create that package, that a la carte version, that has the crawl, walk, run model. We can do it for you. We can take your existing infrastructure and redo it and get it to a working place, and you can manage it going forward. And then we can help you get started, because so many businesses don't realize they're not even set today to handle these areas correctly. And so we can start with step one, which is, let's look at your contracts, let's look at how you find business and onboard it, and let's get that squared away. So and I think that goes into what I have for your listeners and your viewers today as a gift.
Love that. So, final message and final question, so to speak, before we start winding down. What's what's your big message to those that are listening? We're now in the second half of this year. 2021 it's been a good year for a lot of people, but it's still been a challenging year and a half now for those that have been really affected by the pandemic, whether personally, financially, physically. What's your simple leaving off message for the second half of this year for the listeners?
Yeah, I would say dust yourself off, right? We talked about our bumps and bruises. This is a bump and a bruise and maybe a little bit of a headache at the end of it. But dust yourself off and, again, persevere, get up and go strong. Don't be afraid, because the unknown is magical. And that's really where you get to find all the opportunity that you didn't even know existed.
Could not agree more. And before we get to the final question, Katie, how can people learn more about you and how you can help them and their companies?
Yeah, so they can connect with us on Instagram, Full Advantage LLC, as well as on Facebook, Full Advantage, and then on LinkedIn, we have a personal page, and as well as my own Katie Keach personal page, we have the Full Advantage LinkedIn page as well. And I'm going to give your listeners and your viewers a copy of a credit application with an easy to put logo and all the verbiage, so it at least gets them started on learning how to onboard business and have a credit application. Not all business is good business, so I'm going to get that to you, and I think that'll be really good for them.
Oh, that's amazing. So for all the listeners, that free gift that Katie is speaking about will be in the show notes. So all you have to do is click on the show notes. There'll be a hyperlink right there where you guys can download it. And Katie, thank you for that. Very, very kind and generous of you. And that basically just summarizes who you are as a person. So just really grateful that you've come on today and shared all your gifts. So final question before we end today's episode, what does success truly mean to you?
Success means freedom, and freedom, not just financially. Because I've always tell people, especially when they come and see the house or cars, whatever, I give all the material things back. It's the freedom to know that I can change so much in the world and I don't even realize it. and what that means for other people. That's really the freedom for me.
What I love about that question is that everyone has a different answer. But what I can tell you, I've asked that question over 150 times or so. Not one person has said it's all about the money. They've always said the money is nice. It gives people the opportunity to do different things, but success is a much deeper thing. And it really comes down to family, freedom, time, all of those things that we sometimes take for granted. So Katie, thank you so much again for being here today. So grateful for you and your kind words and all the gifts and the love that you shared on this episode. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Scott. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. So everyone, again, the free gift that Katie spoke about is in the show notes. Download it, use it. It's free. And for those that are listening that do want to learn more about Katie, all of her social handles and website will be in the show notes as well, and definitely connect with her. So everyone, please enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much again for checking out today's episode. And if you are listening through iTunes, Spotify, wherever you are, please leave me a rating and review. Let me know what you loved, what you would like to see improved, or ideas you have for future episodes. And if you are interested in taking your business to the next level, don't hesitate to go to my website, www.scottaaron.net, where you can schedule a free discovery call with me, where I can learn more about you, your business, what you're struggling with, and how we can work together. And don't forget to check out my wife, Nancy, and mine, our free community on Facebook called LinkedIn Leads for Life. We would love to see you in there. Have a great rest of your day. And thank you everyone for your support. Grateful for each and every one of you.